Out front now, New York State Assemblyman and presumptive Democratic nominee for mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani. And so much appreciate your time. A whirlwind week for you. I think to put it lightly. Okay, so, everyone else is putting their view on this, of what this means, okay? Your victory. What do you think it means?
I think it means that we are ready in the most expensive city in the United States to have 5 boroughs that New Yorkers can actually afford. And this entire race was about the question of affordability. And ultimately, I have run a campaign that speaks about the tools that city government actually has to deliver that affordability in the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the world. And it's time that we have a mayoral administration that follows through and actually delivers that.
All right, so I want to talk about some of that, but first the breaking news. Isaac DeVere is reporting that Andrew Cuomo is not dropping out of the general election race, right? And it's kind of a will-or-won't-he, but the deadline's tomorrow. Is this a surprise to you?
Ultimately, Andrew's decision or my decision matters less than the decision that voters already took on Tuesday night, where we won from Bay Ridge to Dyker Heights to Harlem to Washington Heights. We saw a mandate delivered for a new generation of leadership. And I am so proud and excited to continue to build on that mandate with an ever-expanding coalition, one that has now included the endorsements of Congressman Jerry Nadler, of State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel, and Manhattan Borough President, soon-to-be Controller, Mark Levine. And ultimately, that is a coalition that will continue to expand through November.
Right, so you're saying no matter what, I mean, if Andrew Cuomo's in, it's not like a redo where you're worried?
No, not at all. I mean, we did it once, and it turned out pretty well.
All right, so now can we talk about the policy? The
Please.
Policy is what stood out to a lot of people. But right, I said the freezing rents on half of the apartments, free bus service, the free childcare, and the city-run grocery stores. How do you pay for that?
Let's go through it. So for the first thing, freezing the rent, that's not something that requires any fiscal output from the city. It's something that's determined by the Rent Guidelines Board, composed of 9 members. The mayor picks each of those members. They determine each year whether rents rise or whether they stay the same. The previous mayoral administration froze the rent 3 times, so this has clear historical precedent. When it comes to city-run grocery...
Even Adams, you're saying Adams.
No, this is prior
to
Adams.
Okay.
He's the current one who has raised it 9% on those same New Yorkers, pushing them out of their homes. City-run grocery stores, I've proposed a pilot program of 1 store in each borough. These are 5 stores in total. The total cost of this is $60 million. This is less than half the cost of what the city is already set to spend on a subsidy program for corporate supermarkets that has no guarantee of cheaper prices or collective bargaining agreements or even accepting SNAP or WIC.
So you're not looking at some like Soviet Union grocery stores on every corner that are going to be run by the government?
No, what I'm looking at is how to solve the very clear twin crises of affordability when you go to the grocery store and food deserts, which disproportionately impact Black and brown New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, where I've heard directly from New Yorkers who say, why is it that I can find 6 fast food restaurants in a 5-block radius, but I can't find a place to buy groceries?
But five boroughs, 5 grocery stores, but that can't be the goal.
Well, I mean, the idea
is the goal you want them on every? No, but in New York things do go. There's a nail salon on every corner. There's a grocery store on almost every other corner.
I think ultimately I'm guided by outcomes. If this pilot succeeds in guaranteeing cheaper groceries, as I think it will be, then yes, it should scale up. If it doesn't succeed, then no, it shouldn't, because what New Yorkers want are results. And then it comes to making buses free and universal childcare.
Right.
These are things that cost around $700 million and let's say about $5 or $6 billion. Significant amounts of money.
Huge amounts of money.
But have to be understood in the context of a $113 billion municipal budget, a $252 billion state budget, and we put forward a plan to pay for these and more to start Trump-proofing our city through 2 major revenue streams. Increasing the top corporate tax rate of New York to match that of New Jersey, that raises $5 billion, and increasing income taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers who make $1 million or more a year by 2%. Both of these things, after they come to fruition, you're still paying less than you did before Trump.
Okay, on the city tax though, and I know that takes effect with people right now, that top rate of people of 50,000 or more. So if you're going to be adding 2% to people at $1 million, that I just did the math, right? Well, but that's going to be an increase of 51% of what they pay now. I'm not saying cry for them. I'm saying if they leave, you're not going to get that money. And when you increase someone's taxes by 51%, aren't a lot of people going to leave?
We're saying we're increasing it by 2% of what it is right now. And ultimately, I'm guided by the facts. The Fiscal Policy Institute did an analysis of the top 1% of New Yorkers and found that they leave the city at 1/4 the rate of other income categories. And when they leave to what are called high tax states, New Jersey, California. So what it then comes down to is, Why are they leaving? Is it fiscal policy or is it actually quality of life? And I've heard that time and again from wealthier New Yorkers, from all New Yorkers.
So it's talk. They're going to go to Florida and all you think is talk.
In 2021, when I came to the State Assembly, we had the same fight to fund public schools, to raise taxes on billionaires and corporations. We were told millionaires would flee.
Yep.
And we now have more millionaires.
Okay, so the New York Times is saying that Mayor Adams is trying to gather business leaders to support him, to say this is going to be bad. And Bill Ackman, billionaire hedge fund manager, of course you know of him, New Yorker, he said he agrees with you that the city's broken, okay, but he has a real problem with your economic policies. He said the ability for New York City to offer services for the poor and needy, let alone the average New Yorker, is entirely dependent on New York City being a business-friendly environment and a place where wealthy residents are willing to spend 183 days, the amount you need to be taxed, and assume the associated tax burden. Unfortunately, both have already started making arrangements for the exits. So you just think that that isn't going to add up. And by the way, that corporate tax rate that you're talking about, that's a big increase.
That's matching 7.25% going to 11.5%. And the point of it is that if it works for our regional neighbor, why can't it work for us? And with Bill Ackman, this is someone who put $500,000 into Andrew Cuomo's super PAC, someone to whom clearly money is not an issue. And ultimately, even for him, life would get better. Because what I'm looking to use this money for is to make the quality of life across the city better.
Okay, so when people say Democratic Socialist, right, and I'm curious what you think this means. I mean, do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, is dignity and taking on income inequality. And for too long, politicians have pretended that we're spectators to that crisis of affordability. We're actually actors, and we have the choice to exacerbate it, like Mayor Adams has done, or to respond to it and resolve it, like I'm planning to do.
Okay. So, you know, for people who say that America was built on, and a lot of immigrants, and obviously you speak from an immigrant experience. I mean, you came as a young child, but you speak to a lot of people who came much more recently, that they come to America because they believe in capitalism. They believe that if they work hard and make a lot of money, that that's part of the American dream. Do you think that's not part of the American dream? I
think the dream at its core is a dream for stability in one's life. And what you're saying, that you work hard enough and that you then reap the benefits, too many New Yorkers, and Americans for that matter, are working 8 hours and then still feeling like they haven't made enough money to keep living in the city they call home. And ultimately, what I'm focused on is making the city affordable for everyone, not to win an ideological argument, but to deliver on the mandate of this
So when Mayor
campaign.
Adams, you just heard him come out and he said, soup, silver spoon. He talked about manicured nails to refer to you, right? I was looking at him. You can show him to everybody. What do you say to him?
You know, I understand what he's doing. He's trying to distract from his own record. His is a record where he raised rents on more than 2 million New Yorkers by 9%, and he's considering another 8% increase. His is a record of raising the water bill to the highest it's been in 13 years, supporting Con Edison when they wanted to increase New Yorkers' gas and electric bills by $65 a month. I would much rather talk about me than I would about his record if I was him. And so that's what he's going to be doing over the next few months. And we will continue to remind New Yorkers what's on the ballot. It's affordability.
All right, Assemblyman, please stay with me. Our conversation with Zohran Mamdani continues right after this. Back with Zohran Mamdani, who is poised to win the Democratic primary for New York City over Andrew Cuomo for New York City mayor. Before we continue the conversation, I just want to play, because that's what this is, play more of Mamdani telling his story.
So to quote the words of a famous New Yorker, allow me to reintroduce myself. I was born in Kampala, Uganda, in East Africa. I was given my middle name Kwame by my father, who named me after the first prime minister of Ghana.
I moved to this city when I was 7. This is the city I fell in love with, the city where I got my citizenship.
He's been in the New York Assembly for 4 years, and before that, he was an aspiring rapper under the name Mr. Cardamom. Listen.
Down for you. Look around for you. Make a sign for you. Give a crime to you.
Once you do it, it's out there. It never comes back. It's there.
Didn't think it was going to be on CNN.
It's there, and there it is. So what do you say to people who look at your background and they wonder? They say, okay, rising star you may be, but this is the largest city in America, $112 billion budget, 8 million people, and a hell of a lot of problems. And they say, okay, whatever the future may be, you're not ready now.
I would say that a campaign offers a glimpse of what an administration would look like. And we built a campaign the likes of which the city has not seen in a long time. We started with 2 full-time employees and now are managing 50,000 volunteers. At the beginning of this race, there were questions of whether we'd get 50,000 votes. And yet we had 50,000
volunteers.
50,000 volunteers who knocked on 1.5 million doors, made 2.1 million phone calls. And ultimately, it's a story of not only being able to inspire people, but absorb that inspiration and build an organization. And I think that's also the story of what it means to run a city, that you are ultimately responsible, but you're also determined by hiring the best and the brightest. And that's what I will be doing in City Hall. I'll be hiring those that have a clear track record of excellence, of results, that come from a wide variety of mayoral administrations, and finally bring public excellence back into the public sector.
All right, so you caught a lot of attention for confronting Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, about the deportation policies, which have a lot of impact here in New York. Here you are.
Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
So that moment went viral, all right? Then after the primary, Homan was asked about your plan, which is on your website. You said that you would end the city's cooperation with ICE agents that has been going on under Mayor Adams. And he has spoken out. Here's what he said.
Good luck with that. Federal law trumps him every day, every hour of every minute. We're going to be in New York City. Game on. We're coming.
Game on. He's coming. What do you say?
That I'm going to be here to stand up and fight back. And unlike the current mayor, I'm not going to be working alongside the Trump administration to build the single largest deportation force in American history. I'm going to actually represent each and every New Yorker. And that includes immigrant New Yorkers. And that means standing up for the laws of this city, like our sanctuary city policies, which have kept New Yorkers safe for decades and were defended by Republicans and Democrats alike for years until we got this mayor who fear-mongered about them so extensively.
Does that involve the NYPD?
It means that the NYPD would actually serve New Yorkers and not assist ICE in their operations. We recently saw ICE agents.
So they would not assist ICE?
Not assisting ICE, because ultimately their job is public safety. And I know officers who are signing up to take on serious crimes, not to be a part of a force that is arresting a pastor who's peacefully observing the arrest of a migrant at Federal Plaza.
All right, so a moment ago you talked about how you didn't know if you'd get 50,000 votes, and you ended up with 50,000 volunteers. They knocked on doors. There are many in the country who might look at that and say, okay, that makes me think of somebody else. Somebody else who took on I'm trying to think of the right word to use, but somebody who expected to win and therefore didn't campaign that hard and lost. And the person who did that was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? Famously also here in New York. She endorsed you early. She helped you. She just spoke to Manu Raju, our Manu Raju, a few moments ago. She said the Democratic Party needs to pay attention to your success right now. Here's what she just told him.
We have a choice to listen to that message that people are sending us or not. This isn't just about Mr. Mamdani as an individual. This is about the message that the people of New York City are trying to send to our party.
So there's now talk, that your victory puts her in a whole new light, right? It puts her and Bernie Sanders, not that they were seen as fringe, but they were seen as a wing of the party. And that instead of being a wing, that becomes more of the center, and that you are part of that. Do you see it that way? And do you see those who say, look, your victory propels her to a presidential run in 2028?
She's been an inspiration, and it's been an honor to be represented by her as an assembly member in Astoria for many years. And I think about a senior who works at a child care center that I met in Sunnyside, Queens, who told me that I'm not a progressive, but I realized when I looked at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, they were the only ones who were willing to fight for me. Yeah. And that's what so many New Yorkers and Americans understand, is that these are the two individuals who have been willing to take on this oligarchy and actually stand up for dignity for Americans.
Before you go, one last thing. Bill Ackman, I just mentioned him as right, he's the billionaire hedge fund manager, but he's not alone. There are a lot like him, whether it's Ken Griffin or CEOs of big banks. Would you meet with them?
I'll meet with anyone. I will meet with them, and I'll explain why I believe in the necessity of raising the top corporate tax rate. And I'd also tell Bill Ackman that I firmly disagree with his attempt to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion across the country, because it's not only against the morals of so many, it's also against the actual bottom line for so many businesses. And as a businessman, he should understand that.
All right. Well, Assemblyman, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.